I don't do reaction videos. I'm putting that out there now because like I don't do reaction videos. It was never about that. It was always about putting out products about my travels or especially here in Colombia. And yeah, that was kind of what my jam was. But today I want to talk about something. And I'm going to talk about it because it affects Colombia and I have opinions about it. And I've had a heck of a day, so I'm going to get my shit off. If you guys haven't been following the news, there's been a couple news stories running around in Colombia. Um, and this is one of the stories.
Tonight, an urgent warning for Americans visiting Colombia after a string of deaths in tourist hotspots. The U.S. Embassy in Bogota urging travelers not to use dating apps in the country, writing in a security alert that criminals are using the sites to lure victims, with many U.S. citizens drugged, robbed, and even killed by their Colombian dates. Embassy officials confirming the deaths of at least 8 Americans traveling in Medellin, possibly linked to the apps. The embassy's alert indicated officials do not believe all 8 of the deaths are linked and said they've seen an increase in reports of incidents involving the use of online dating applications to lure victims, typically foreigners, for robbery by force or using sedatives to drug and rob individuals.
If you don't know, the official release from the U.S. Embassy, which I will put on the screen right now, says the U.S. Embassy in Bogota is aware of 8 suspicious deaths of private U.S. citizens in Medellin between November 1st and December 31st, 2023. The deaths appear to involve either involuntary drugging, overdose, or are suspected homicides. At this time, it is not believed these deaths are linked, as each involved distinct circumstances. However, several of the deaths point to possible drugging, robbery, and overdose, and several involve the use of online dating applications. The U.S. government goes on to say that we should all be exercising increased caution. I'm not going to lie to you guys. That happens here. And that's sad, and nobody deserves to be a victim. But we need to look at the root cause of it, because I think the story is a little bit more nuanced than Americans are just coming here and being killed. And so that's what I want to talk about today. So while it is true that that does happen here and it happens in the major cities, but it primarily happens in tourist destinations. And I kind of want to talk about the reasoning behind that and why. So let's get something out of the way right now. Prostitution and sex work is legal in Colombia. However, pimping or acting with a third party isn't. And I'll be honest, that's attracted a ton of gringos here. And that is because it's become a sex tourism place. Now, that's not the only thing. Obviously, I'm not here for that. Many people I know in the gringo community aren't here for that. But it does occur here. A trip to Parque Lleras or to another part of the city, La Setenta, or pretty much anywhere. Hell, there's even advertisements for it. But it is something that does happen here, and it is something that is legal. And with that comes the opportunity for scams and some shady shit. And so when we need to talk about the people that are being affected by this supposed outbreak of violence against gringos, we need to talk about why they're here. And the truth is that unfortunately a lot of my fellow countrymen come down here for 2 things, and that's the sex tourism industry, or maybe they're just looking to hook up casually, and drugs. And that's a thing that happens here. So let's kind of talk about it. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. We're not popular here anymore. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, in Medellin especially, there's kind of a blame of the gringos for the cost of living and being higher than it usually is or usually was. And I've seen that over tourist prices. I can attest to that. Like, the price of things are going up here. But the other part is that we honestly come to trash the city. We come down here, we party our asses off, and then we go home. And what I found is that we treat the Colombians kind of like shit. And so we as gringos have really fostered a reputation of, well, they're sex crazed tourists. They're down here for the sex trade. Some are into the child trade as well. And that's, I mean, it's not hard to figure out why we have that. These are things that happen. And then you get guys like this cool guy.
Okay, guys, I had to take a short video. This is what you find here. Say hola.
Hola.
Look at this, guys. I can't take it home, but Maroon.
is a lot going on there.
Okay, guys, they told me that with the videos with the girls, I'm never going to meet a real girl, so I decided to man up and do the right thing. So I got two.
And his most famous clip was actually on an episode of Your Mom's House, which I'm going to show you guys now, so you'll hear Christina and Tom going, but kind of shows the attitude of this guy specifically.
Travel tips.
And even if you want to take a girl out back, you can do that too.
Out back and shoot her?
But just go on the
Out
internet
back?
and
You
check
mean
it out.
take
But
her
I
in the
have
room?
to tell you guys, this is a place to see. Again, you're going to spend a few bucks,
Yeah.
but it's worth it, man.
Now, Christina and Tom obviously go on to make fun of him, not only because it's their shtick, but because this person's not self-aware. Like, we're openly bragging about coming down here for the sex tourism trade, and then we have the nerve to turn around and say, oh my God, I don't understand why they don't like us very much. And that's bad enough, but whatever, if that's your jam, I guess do you. But then we have the nerve to bitch about the prices. Check this out.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if there was some sort of, memo that went out to all the girls where they should just charge a bunch more money. But every girl is starting at, if you want their time for 1 hour, the cost is $100.
Right, because obviously that's ridiculous. Look, I don't know what the market rates are for sex work in Colombia, in the United States, in Europe, whatever. I don't. But like, how are you gonna complain about that? For reference, the minimum wage in Colombia right now stands at about 1.3 million pesos per month. Now, 1.3 million sounds like a lot, but when you do the math, and I figured about 3,980 pesos to each dollar, that equals out to be $326. And that's the minimum wage here for 1 month of work, not for 2 weeks like in the United States, which I think is, I mean, federally it's like 280 a week, but for the month, 326. And we're complaining about the price. Not only that, this guy goes on to laugh at these people and say, this is too much money because you're not worth it. Look,
$100. She could be ugly, breath smelling like onions. 100. They all start at 100.
and he's far from the only one. There's all kinds of people. Like, I call them the fresh and fit crowd because they're into the red pill or they just view women as property and things like that. And this ain't me white knighting, but there's literally hundreds of videos that tell you where to go pick up women like this, where to go and do these kind of things, and how to negotiate a lower rate, which, okay, asshole, whatever. This is an epidemic problem. And so other people see this and they think, oh, if I go to Colombia, it's totally normal and safe to hook up with women or associate with sex workers, or if I go to Colombia, I'm guaranteed to get laid and everything's totally normal. And that creates a false sense of security. If you're going to hang out in places like that, in Lleras, in brothels, or if you're going to solicit sex workers, like, you're putting yourself in intentionally harmful situations. And that's where scopolamine comes in. Drugging here does happen, and it happens in clubs. Like, if you're a guy, you need to watch where you leave your drink. Not because like it's probably going to be fine, but on the event or in the case that it is not, that's not good for you. There was a guy on YouTube the other day who said, oh, well, I was at my hostel and I met a girl on Tinder and she invited me over to her house. And he never had met this woman. And he went to her house and then he took a drink from her and he got drugged and then he got robbed. He lost 20K in cryptocurrency. And would you do that in the United States? The answer is no, you wouldn't. You assume a certain amount of risk in the United States. As a gringo, like, I can attest, it is frowned upon. Sex work is frowned upon in general, whether it's webcam or definitely prostitution. But if someone invited you over to your house after meeting them for like an hour and a half and you're older than, I don't know, 20, you wouldn't go over there because you know you're not in control of the situation. You're not in a good position, like, and you're in a country where you don't speak the language. But for some reason, when Americans come down here, and I'm speaking solely for Americans, but it does happen in Europe and other foreigners too. We think that our dollars insulate us because, well, these people are poor and they'll just be happy to have the money from us for the sex, and it doesn't open us up to any risks. But this shit does happen in the United States. The most famous example is the rapper Cardi B. She openly admitted in Instagram Live to drugging and robbing men in her stripping days because, and in her words, not mine, I did what I had to do to survive. This happens in the United States. It's just not reported on and it's not put on YouTube because we don't like to talk about that. If you say, well, I went to a hooker in the United States and somebody robbed me, or I met up with a stranger on the internet at their home and they robbed me, that's totally normal and to be expected. But here, what the gringos do is we come, this happens to us, and we say, see, this is an example. This is an example of why those Colombians can't be trusted and they're bad people and the city's dangerous. No, you're putting yourself in intentionally dangerous situations, whether that's with prostitutes, whether that's with drug dealers, whether that's really anything. And it's opening you up to risk. And then we are somehow amazed that this happens to us. Yeah, but Zach, I hear you say, I've I wasn't looking for sex work and somebody put something in my drink. Well, yeah, that happens in the United States too. Date rape drugs are all across campuses, all across party scenes, all whatever. In fact, certain places are handing out coasters and testing kits to make sure that you're not getting drugged. The difference is in the United States, it's primarily happening to women, not to men. They're usually the perpetrators. So how is this any different? The truth is, it's not any different. This happens. This happens in the United States. It doesn't make it right. Like if you want to go chase after sex workers, that's your business. I don't understand it. Good on you. But if you're going to come here and say, "Well, I was completely blameless and I was a victim," you have to know that there are risks involved putting yourself in bad situations. For instance, being drunk in a place that you don't speak the language, pretty big red flag. And I'm not saying anybody deserves to get drugged, robbed, whatever, but we need to be honest about what we're doing that's contributing to that. Because the stories that were being told by victims are not always the full truth. So if you're coming here, there's ways to be safe. Number one, meet in a public place. No brainer. Not even a bar. Meet in a coffee shop. Meet in a restaurant. Those things are normal. Number two, don't go somewhere where you don't know the person. Know them for a while. If you see the word beneficios mutuos in Spanish in their profiles, avoid that. If someone says, oh, they try to get money from you, avoid that. If someone's like, oh, well, we can maybe spend some time together and have some fun, avoid that. It's not hard to keep yourself safe. If you exercise some level of common sense, at the end of the day, you'll be in a way better position than you would be if you just think you can do whatever because Medellin has somehow become adult Disneyland for those looking to hook up with beautiful women. It's not what this place is. This place is a wonderful place. Colombia in general. I've been to places that even Colombians are like, I wouldn't go there. Been to Quibdó. I've been to parts of Medellin, like Manrique, Enciso, Boston, Bello, Sabaneta. Sabaneta is really nice, so that doesn't count. Shadier parts of Belen, but like the majority of people that are here are wonderful people, and they're glad to share their city with you. They're glad to share their country with you as a tourist. If you want to live here like I do, that's a thing you can do here, and people are really welcoming once they get to know you and know that you're not like these people. As far as regular robbery goes, smash and grab, someone punches you, takes your wallet, happens, but it's pretty rare. This is not a dangerous place if you exercise some level of common sense. Yeah, you got to take a few extra steps with your drink. Welcome to the world that women live in the United States and in Europe. And I know a lot of people are probably going to get mad that I called them out in this video. I showed some clips. Fair enough. That's your jam. You are entitled to live your life how you want. But you don't get to cry victim completely whenever at the end of that you end up in a bad situation or robbed or drugged or something else. You have to be careful. You have to be smart. The things you wouldn't do in the United States, you shouldn't do here. And you definitely shouldn't come here just for that. This place will give you back 10 times what you put into this place. It's a wonderful country. The people are fantastic and they will treat you like family. I have friends here that when I lost my job back in June, gave me they didn't literally give me the shirt off their backs, but they did everything they could to help me out. And they had nothing. They're making $326 a month. And they were like, "You need food? I got you today." So the stories you're hearing about Colombia being dangerous, it's not like that. And so I hope if you're going to come here, you're not coming here for sex tourism or drugs. Take the Escobar tour. I took it. It was great. Learn about that, but don't come here for that. And you'll get a lot more out of Colombia. And lastly, to the women of Colombia in general, I know that Americans come down here and are a little grab assy and aggressive and want offer you money for sex and stuff like that when you're not working in that trade. And I'm sorry for that. It's not my fault, but my countrymen sometimes come here for the wrong reasons, and that sucks. And to the Colombian people, I'm sorry that this happens. Like, I'm sorry that we come down and trash the city and then we go home and we just say horrible things about you. And that's crap. And so it's not my fault personally. I try to show the good things here, but I am sorry that that occurs. And for the rest of you, stay safe, take care of each other, and come to Colombia for the right reasons. Take care.